I'm paying you the big bucks. I've got the CEO title and you don't have a title like this. You need to do what I want right now. And they would run all over you if you would let them. But if you would stand your ground and try to find some middle ground, some compromise, explain the situation, be able to communicate effectively, made all the difference in the world. And you would also earn respect where if you would push back on some of them and go, I understand what you're wanting, but we can't do that.
What's up, guys? Lift and Love. Lift and Love here. Where did you pull this question from? Why is that? Lift Love. Crochet. We out. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Lifting Love podcast. You are awesome. And today's episode is brought to you by Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, where lake and life meet. Shout out to Lake Hickory Pub and Marina for allowing us to film our episodes here. Make sure you go click the link in the description below. And lastly, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button now, because 70% of you watching this podcast are not subscribed. We're going to fight. Really, we're not. But enough about me, enough about Lifting Love, what we got going on. Today, we have an incredible guest. It is Nick Dyson, the founder and owner of Dyson Leadership. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. It's great to be on the podcast with you today.
Dude, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I feel like you're always doing something. It's something so fascinating that a lot of our guests have. It's like everybody's so busy, and I appreciate anybody taking 45 minutes to an hour. You a little bit longer because the setup, but being on the podcast. So I appreciate your time, first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's always what people say is they see things I'm posting on social media and they're like, you're so busy. And I even joked about it earlier to you that one of the most common questions I get is, when do you sleep? And I'm like, I sleep at night like anybody else.
Wait, hold on. How do you spell that? What is that? Are you supposed to, they say 8 hours, but you really go get 8 hours?
Get as much as you can get, but I mean, hey, it's one of those things that's funny though. Everybody thinks that I'm so busy. Apparently I'm superhuman or something and don't sleep, but just like anybody else, time management. Yeah, I think that's a great starting point. I think, and it's funny being in business development and leadership, right? It's like, you could be the busiest person ever, but if you're efficient, that's like where it just, right? You look at I can only speak for creators, but you look at a Mr. Beast or a Gary Vee or these guys who literally are doing these big, huge things. They're always running around, but they are able to sleep. They're able to do this. They're able to do that. They're efficient, right? I think it's crazy to talk about efficiency. I think also people only see what they see, right? Biggest thing I've learned is that perception is reality. Yeah.
Perception is reality.
Absolutely.
I think it's so funny. But before I get on a tangent, we go right into a conversation, which I feel like we could talk all day. For people who may not know who you are.
Sure.
Who are you and what do you do?
That's a loaded question. So obviously my name is Nick Dyson. You said that when we got started. And, really for me and most people around, say, our local Chamber of Commerce and a lot of businesses in the area, they know me just from Dyson Leadership. But they don't really know kind of the backstory, history, who I am, how I've got to where I'm at. I'm actually somebody who's always lived in the area. But specifically here in this county, I've lived in several places kind of surrounding, but never in, our local Catawba County here until just a few years ago. And so I've always been in the area. I started at the local community college is my first, higher education step. And so I've always been connected, always known people, always been around in different areas, but kind of flew under the radar from what most people would know or recognize. And so I'm very familiar with the area, the people. I have a ton of connections to people in the area for that reason. And for me, it kind of went a little out there when I went to college and ended up studying at a university in Virginia. And there was kind of that gap, that separation. I flew even more under the radar. And then my first job out of college was a company that's local here in the area and worked for them for several years. Got some amazing experience and worked with some amazing people. And one of the biggest things from that job was I was talking to executives of companies and not just in our area. I'm talking CEOs, CFOs, director of operations, you name it, every single day, and was doing that for years. And that was just normal everyday life of having conversations, building relationships with people, and taking that going from there. So one of the biggest aspects that kind of led me to Dyson Leadership, there was that experience, which was really beneficial. But I actually came from a lot of youth development, youth leadership organizations.
Yeah.
I did competitive public speaking as a teenager.
Which
That already freaks people out.
That's a thing?
That is a thing.
Whoa! I would have. Oh my goodness! I would have crushed. I took a public speaking course in college. It's the only college class I got an A+ on.
Yeah,
I loved it so much. It was competitive. But I wish I would have known about that. Sorry, continue. My bad.
Okay, here's a funny story about that. You told me earlier you love stories. So I was actually an extremely introverted teenager, which is surprising, especially now. Like 100%. I'm sitting here on a podcast and chatting. Of course, that's not what you expect.
Yeah.
But going back to it as a teenager, like extremely shy, very introverted, would not have a lot of conversations unless you were like a close friend. And what it was is there was a conference that I wanted to go to, and this was through a youth organization, and I didn't have the money to go to the conference. Mm-hmm. And my family at the time, we had tight budgets. We didn't have that kind of money, and there wasn't the money to go to that conference. And so I talked to the leader of the group that was organizing, taking kids to this conference, and they said, well, there's an opportunity for a scholarship. And I'm like, great, what do I have to do? Just what do I have to do? If there's a scholarship and it gets me to that conference with my friends, what do I have to do? You have to prepare a presentation. You can use poster boards or PowerPoint, and you have to present, and you have to either win the competition at our local district or place second.
And you just dove headfirst into it?
I signed up and I'm like, I've never done this before, but I'll give it a try. I have no idea how this is going to go, but let's try it.
Wait a second. Not like you took a public speaking course or did it. You just literally were like, I'm just going to sign up for this and attempt to get to this conference.
Yeah. I have a lot of people in my family that do public speaking, different roles, different things. So I've seen it a lot and been around it and exposed to it, but had never really done it myself. That was not a thing since I was more introverted. So that was definitely out of your comfort zone kind of thing.
And so let me ask you, going back to your story, where does that leadership development really stem from? Is it seeing people around you, or was it really that job that you had speaking to executives? Like what ultimately led you into the role of like, I want to help people build, I want to help people become better leaders, thus, just like we were talking before the pod, becoming better people for society. When did that, what's the culmination of that story?
So that ties into the competitive public speaking aspect. So to kind of wrap up that story and take you to the next is, surprisingly, I actually did win the district level. So I got to go to the conference. And when we went to the conference, there was 2 tracks that you could go on and participate in breakout sessions and workshops. One of them was focused on U.S. citizenship, and the other one was focused on leadership.
Hold on. Let me guess which one you took. U.S. citizenship.
Oh, absolutely. We went and studied politics and looked at ways to be good citizens, and that really started me. No.
What a plot twist! Listen, if you would have went, you could have just today maybe you're a politician and not in leadership.
Who knows? What was funny is I had some friends that went on that track and went that direction, and they were trying to encourage me, but I'm like, I don't know, these workshops on the leadership side, that sounds really interesting. I just want to see what that is. And so went that direction, and specifically there was one workshop that was kind of that aha moment for me that was unique. Yeah. And in that workshop, we sat down, and these are all kids. You think about it, we're all at a conference, we're in a leadership track. We have all, a lot of us have won presentation competitions and paid money to be there. Like these are people you would consider pretty high achieving teenagers for the most part. And the facilitator of this leadership workshop asked us to take a piece of paper and write down on that paper, what are things you feel like the older generation says about you and your generation? And that was part of it. And then when we got done after the time limit they gave us, they asked us to start shouting out some answers. And to my surprise, there was not a single positive one that was shouted out.
And let me guess, you had a positive thing to say.
Actually, no. Most of mine on there I felt like were negative as well. And so most of the things in the room were, most of us, it was kind of our sentiment. We felt like people thought we were lazy. We didn't have initiative. We were unorganized. We were arrogant. I mean, all of those terms were what was being thrown out.
Yeah. And
when I looked at my paper, I saw that it was a lot the same way, that was kind of how I felt a lot of people viewed me as a teenager. And I remember the facilitator of that workshop, there was 2 or 3 of them, but it was one that was kind of the lead of the group. And she actually started tearing up. It actually upset her that it was that negative. And she said, don't ever let people sell you short and put you down in that way. That what you are learning now and how you are becoming a leader now as a teenager, and she encourages, she's like, you are here at a conference, learning leadership, doing this great stuff. You have the opportunity to step out and change your world moving forward, to change your communities because of you actually putting in the effort and the time here. And so for me, it was kind of that aha moment of there's somebody from an older generation, when I thought they were all we're wild teenagers and don't care about us, who's investing into us, adding value to us and encouraging us that even though you're 17, 18 years old, you can go out and make a difference. And sitting there in that workshop, one thing it encouraged me, made me feel a whole lot better. And, that was a big moment for me in my youth. But then also sitting there going, one day I want to be able to do that. And so that's where you start to see that idea listed of, I had no idea how, I had no idea when, I have no idea how to even get to that point, but one day I would love to be a person like that, to be able to go and encourage people, to show them how they can be a leader, teach them the skills that they need, that kind of thing. And one day I want to be able to do that. I just don't know how.
And you were how old at this point?
17.
So 17. So here's a thing I find really fascinating. Just talking to people, usually they don't find their thing till really late. I was 23 when I found this content. Well, I've been doing content a while, but like when I really dove into content, when I really attempted it, I was 23, right? That was 4 years ago. A lot of people don't find that thing until mid 20s, 30s, 40s, which is still young for anyone watching. If you're 40 years old and you just found your career, guess what? Realistically, you're halfway through your life for it, right? You still have a lot of time left to do everything you need to do. Was it harder for you finding something at 17 with no path? And what did you think that set you up for the future? Like how excited was your outlook coming out of high school?
It was actually extremely hard because you actually run into a lot of issues, especially in what that is, because you have that desire. And that's what I looked at long term of, I want to do that, but I have no idea how, what steps. I mean, there's not a degree that you go get a degree and instantly you're a leadership trainer and everybody trusts you. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so my thinking coming out of high school was the idea of, okay, well, I need professional experience. I'm going to have to work my way through the corporate ranks or something and, be in a leadership role, and I have to work on that for so long. And what are all of the things that I have to do to ultimately get to my end goal? And it was kind of a struggle too, because one of the things I was great with was technology. And so everybody was saying, oh, you need to go be a computer programmer. You need to go in cybersecurity and you need to go and do this and that. And I listened more to those people than listening to my heart and what I believed I was supposed to do. And so I was focused on the money and what I thought was going to make me the rich person or successful in life, rather than what I actually cared about. And so when I actually started college, I started studying computers, computer science, programming, that kind of thing, and was doing fine, but was miserable. Like I just didn't enjoy it. That wasn't what I wanted to do long term.
But business leadership, you got fired up about.
Yes.
And another thing I bet was that you were super young. Like, if you're ever the young manager, they're always like, come on, give me the real manager, right? Like, I feel like youth was probably also not on your side as well.
Absolutely. And even with my age now, I look young. And so that's one reason I even grew a beard to try to look older, because I lose 10 years when this is gone. And
dude,
so-
the baby face is something that's not talked about. Okay, no one understands the struggle of when you have a beard and you get rid of it and you look like a child, right?
Yes.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm in my early 30s.
Let's go, dude. You're super young, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. That's awesome. Because honestly, I thought you were like way younger. I'm not gonna lie. Like perfect example of what you actually look like. And I was like, I thought you were like my age or younger than me. I was like, that's crazy.
That is the challenge, where people do assume and think that I'm younger based on how I look. And it's one of those where, at this point you think, going back to me at 17 years old, now I'm in my early 30s, like the studying leadership and practicing and going through it, you're talking about over a decade that I've been doing this, where it doesn't look like I'm that old. So that's a challenge.
So going back to your 17-year-old self, thinking how you think now, is leadership and business development, is it everything you thought your 17-year-old self thought it was, or is it just way more?
It's as rewarding as I thought it would be, but it is harder to get into than what I thought it would be.
Really?
And a lot of that challenge is the credibility and trust side of things, where there are actually people that I know that won't work with me because they look at me and my age and it's automatically, well, you don't have enough experience to teach me anything. And there's that mindset. And so I struggle a lot with that, where then I find other people who are, I don't care how old you are, you've got the degrees, the accolades, the training, the certificates, like you've got everything and all of this experience, all these stories. Yeah, we're going to listen to you because you've got things that you've learned that you can teach. And so that makes a big difference.
I think one thing I've learned is that sometimes people are just genuinely stuck in their ways. Mm-hmm. And those are the people you got to be like, man, I really wish you the best, but this is just not going to work out. Right? It's like those people who are like, you're so young. How can you help me in my business? You ever thought about a different perspective? Right? Because like maybe you think your business is doing X, Y, and Z when you really should be doing ABC. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's like, I bring that extra perspective and not just tunnel vision, because a lot of business owners are like this.
Yep.
Someone
Absolutely.
in marketing who, like, you create social media content and you build your business, people are like this. I can only imagine somebody coming in half their age, 10 years younger than them, trying to tell them how they can be better, and then being like, oh, you're telling me this? You think it's like just a mindset thing, right?
Absolutely.
How hard is that to overcome? Like, because you said you've dealt with it.
Yeah. It's extremely hard, and it impacted me even in professional career, not even the business that I own, professional career, where just the looking young and 10 years younger, 20 years younger than people in similar roles or just similar industries, and that being a challenge. The hardest thing is the mental battle, getting past it mentally, where if you let it eat at you personally, it will make you stop because, well, nobody trusts me. Nobody's going to listen to me. I keep getting told no, so why am I going to keep trying? And you give up. Instead of keeping the search going and continuing to look for those who are the right customers and are the right fit, are the right people to partner with you and will believe in you, buy into the vision. Those are the people that are harder to find, but when you find them, that's when things happen.
So let me ask you, you hear a lot of no's, you hear all this stuff. Why do you do this? I'm not even trying to make a joke. I'm genuinely curious. Like, it seems that there's a lot of pushback, which I mean, I think in everything that people do, in every business you try to build, there's always going to be pushback.
Sure.
But what's your why?
That's a great question. So my why is kind of a couple different areas. One is I go back to the 17-year-old me of, I want to be able to have that impact and to show people what it is to be leaders and to really impact people. And that goes beyond, most people see that and they think of it just as business.
Yeah.
And it's more than that. Like, I want to see people who are successful and good leaders for their community, their business, their families, and just all aspects of their life. And if I can have an impact on just a small little corner of the world, then I would consider that successful. Because if I'm able to help people live more successful, more happy lives, to have more rewarding, fulfilling relationships, whatever those aspects are, that to me is a win. And so there's the 17-year-old me that's still the very much visionary dreamer kind of thing and has that. And the other aspect for me is the desire to just do something that matters, where it's one thing to work in a corporate office where you're given tasks, you're given a job, and you come in, you do your job, you create whatever, produce whatever, run whatever reports, whatever your
That
job
is,
is, and you collect a paycheck and go home. And that's the job, the job. You come in, you do what you're told, and you go home. Where for me, it's I want to do something that actually impacts lives and people. And for me, I'm not called to go into like ministry or pastoring a church or anything like that. And so what does that look like for me? Well, for me, that's how can I impact people in personal, professional development, train leaders, and impact people in that way.
So I want to touch back on the position you had where you were speaking with executives and people in high leadership positions. What was some of the biggest takeaways, or what was one of the biggest lessons you learned about speaking with these people who are in very high level executive roles? Like, what was the biggest takeaway from all that experience?
You have to stand your ground. That's the biggest one. Because when you get somebody that they have been in senior leadership and they are, say, a CEO of a company, and they're working with somebody who's either a contractor, they're providing some service, they're not all, but there were a lot that I dealt with that I would call them bulldozers, where they would call you up on the phone and they were ready just to run all over you. This is what I want. You better do it right now. And that was their attitude of, I'm paying you the big bucks. I've got the CEO title and you don't have a title like this. You need to do what I want right now. And they would run all over you if you would let them. But if you would stand your ground and try to find some middle ground, some compromise, explain the situation, be able to communicate effectively, made all the difference in the world. And you would also earn respect where if you would push back on some of them and go, I understand what you're wanting, but we can't do that. Here's what we can do. And I can work on it from this perspective. And you push back and say, no, but, and you give an alternative, then it's, okay, well, I respect you for that because you were honest. You know, you didn't just let me have my way. You told me no, and then you gave an option. And you start to gain a lot of trust and connection with executives in that way. So standing your ground was probably one of the biggest takeaways that I had, where it is very easy when you're 20-something years old and you've got somebody that's 50 years old and have been working in the industry for a long time, and they say, this is the right way to do this. You need to do this my way.
I'm not going to ask any specifics, but are these like Fortune 500 companies, or are these like small startups that just got really, really big? Like, what kind of companies were you dealing with?
So I worked with a variety of companies. I don't think any of them were quite Fortune 500. There were 2 or 3 that were Fortune 1000.
And then, put in perspective, though, even if you're Fortune 1000, you're a gigantic company.
Yes.
People look at the 500 and go, oh my God, they're like, these are the best of the best. There are tens of thousands of businesses that are in that type of like revenue standpoint. But I just wanted to say that because most people don't even know that there is like levels to the fortune of what it is. But continue. Sorry. Fortune 1000 is crazy.
Even a lot of companies I worked for, most of them were smaller, you know, small, medium-sized business. But, you know, we were a logistics provider. That was kind of my background. And I was doing the account management, customer service, operational support. But I was the main point of contact. If you had a problem with your transportation or services, I was the guy you called. Wow. And so I got all the bad calls. I used to joke about it. It sounds really bad, but I used to joke about it that I was the guy that was responsible for talking everybody off a ledge.
You were a firefighter. You putting fires out. You had to come up with the solutions. How long were you in that role?
So I did that for about 3 years, and then I transferred to another role in the company that focused more on project management, where I was still talking to the same people. I was actually talking to the larger companies and more high-profile clients at that point, but was doing a lot of information intake, working with our analytics team. What do you need? How do you need it? You want it that way. We can't do it that way, but what about this way? And trying to negotiate and find common ground. And then I would take that from my role and then go report it to leadership and run it by directors and VPs on our side, and trying to find the compromise and working with report developers. And I mean, communication was just constant. I
was going to say, like, I think one of the biggest things I'm taking away from this is communication, right? It's in everything we do, whether we're talking or not. Communication is, we do it every day. We do it all day long, regardless if we think so or we don't. Communication in roles specifically that are, you're a business owner, you're an executive, from your perspective, from your professional opinion, how important is communication, and how how poorly do people in those positions communicate?
Some do it very well, some do it very poorly, so it depends. I would say communication is probably one of the most vital skill sets for organizations. And that's one reason a lot of what I do, even in training, I would even argue, as far as leadership skills and things that I teach, probably 60% of it is communication focused, if not more. That's just me throwing out an idea of a number. But communication is so vital because it is, how does the supervisor communicate to their team? How does the mid-level manager communicate to the entry-level manager, the shift leaders? How do executives communicate to all the other managers? Information flows up and down. And depending on where that flows, you could have, we need to work on such and such initiative, but they don't say how. Yeah. And then you've got other managers that are trying to interpret the how, and then they tell their followers, this is how we need to do it. And then they're trying to go tell their employees how to do it. And then you end up with some mess, and it's, communication breakdown.
You ever play that game in elementary school, telephone, where you start with, the teacher gives you a proper sentence, and by the time it gets to the end, it's like banana split, right? Mm-hmm. So I currently work a job, and it's a privately owned company. So it's like, it's a car wash. I work with one of the biggest privately owned car washes. I run one of the sites. So I'm a manager, I'm a leader. And I have 3 people, so there's a maintenance guy, and my district manager, and a regional. And then we have like a maintenance tech, right, that comes in and helps us, supports us. And it's so funny because last month we got a training guy. So now there's 5 people. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them says how to do things differently. And I'm just like this. I want to rip my hair out because when one guy comes in, I have to act one way because to him, this is protocol. To the next guy comes in, I have to do a different way because that's and these guys talk every day to each other. Yeah. And you don't realize how much you're talking and that it's just, you're spewing out nothing. Mm-hmm. And you're talking 3 levels of leadership that all have different ways and different protocols and different things that are by the book. Mm-hmm. Do you see this a lot in companies, and do you see this a lot in bigger operations where it's just that chain of communication just kind of gets lost throughout the way for whatever reason? And why do you think that is?
Yeah, so you can see this in small teams of 3-4 people, and you can see it in large organizations of hundreds. And it's actually one of the tools that I use through my partnership with Maxwell Leadership is DISC assessments. I don't know if you've ever heard of it as far as a personality assessment or anything.
Never heard of it.
Okay. So a DISC assessment, you think of your typical personality assessment. Most people are familiar with them. You can go find a bunch of them free online. But the DISC assessment specifically focuses a lot on communication and communication styles. And so there's 4 primary, DISC is an acronym, but there's 4 primary communication styles that people will have. And it comes from research in psychology over years. And what you typically will see is there are certain ones that are more common than others. Mm-hmm. But if you have the right kind of mix, sometimes communication's really good, sometimes it's really poor. And depending on how you communicate to people in the different styles makes a big difference. So here's an example for you. My style in that, there's the DISC. That's the 4 styles. My primary style is a D type, which is very direct. So I have generally no issue with confrontation. So if somebody comes to me, they want to be confrontational. Think of all those executives I dealt with. They want to come argue and tell me what to do.
I'm not gonna lie, those are my favorite people to deal with ever. It's just like, let me go to work.
I mean, is it stressful? Yes, it's going to be stressful. It's going to be a confrontation thing. But do I have an issue with it? Do I shy away from it? Typically, no. I'm more of a, fight it head on. Like if you've got a problem with me, you come talk to my face and we'll deal with it. And so that's a communication style. You get other communication styles where one of them is, we just want to have fun, everybody get along. We do not do confrontation, like brush it under the rug and move on. And, we need team players and to be happy, let's tell some jokes and some stories. Well, obviously, if there's a problem and I'm wanting to deal with the problem, and I've got somebody that's, let's share some stories and let's have fun. Do you want to go? Where are we going for lunch? We're going to have some conflict in our communication styles.
Yeah.
And then one of the other styles, the C type, for example, is very analytical. They want the research and the data. So here's a fun example. I did a disc workshop for a company, and the vast majority of them, they were a manufacturer, but they were very engineering and had a lot of chemist and science-based things that they were working on in their manufacturing. So most people in that company had either as their primary or secondary the C type, where they wanted analytics and data. I'm getting started explaining the DISC and how this is psychology and how we communicate and different things. Guy raises his hand, the very first question, do you have any case studies or analysis that prove this to be accurate?
Well, I'm going to see myself out.
So I do, but at the same time, that's that
Not what you were
characteristic.
expecting, yeah.
Right. And well, I expected it a little bit, but not that bluntly. Just right away. I barely got into my presentation or a lot of the depth of it before
You're like,
that question
hey,
came up.
I'm Nick Dyson. Do you have data? You have data. I need data. I don't care what your name is. I don't care what you do. I need data.
That's exactly the kind of thing that you deal with sometimes. And when you think about those styles, the people that are more direct, the people that are more, we don't want to fight, we don't want to argue, let's just have fun.
Yeah.
You have people that are, I want data, I want research. Let me have like a spreadsheet in front of me, that kind of thing. You start to see some of those communication styles.
Yeah.
And so when you start to recognize them, and especially when I get to do DISC assessments for teams and groups and come in and they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense for that person. That makes sense. I didn't really realize that for that person, but now that I know that, I can communicate to them differently. And you start to see that click, that light bulb go on of, hey, communication matters and how we talk to each other matters because we understand information differently.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to me and it's, let's make this fun and enjoyable and laugh and tell jokes, like I'm not dry and like soulless, but at the same time,
We got a job to do.
I'm very much a task-oriented person.
100%. I mean, you have
And
to
so
be.
that's kind of a different thing. And so when I have to work with people that's like, let's make this fun and energetic and let's do this and that and we're going to make this a party, and I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, I got a job to do. Like,
I think for me, I'm a healthy blend of all of them. I think I have the better stuff of all of them. I'm not an a-hole. I like to have a good time, but know that we have a job to get done. As long as the job's getting done, I think there is some room for having fun and making jokes and stuff like that. And then there's just something about communicating that I struggled a lot earlier in life with confrontation. Now I'm like, with this job specifically, like customers are rude. Customers try to assert themselves and be dominant. It's like, no, I'm in control here. You could come in here and yell and scream all you want. It's not going to do anything because I'm just going to reset. And hey, how are you today? All right, what's going on? Oh, how are you today? What's going on? I don't want to hear you yelling and cursing at me. Something happened, something got messed up. It's all good. You're not going to take that out on me. I didn't do this to you.
yeah,
The company messed up, whatever. I think it's so funny because confrontation's life.
it is.
You're going to have disagreements. You're going to have people who don't like you, frankly, right? And just being frank. There's going to be people who don't want to do business with you. People who don't want to do business with me just because they don't like us. That's fine. Have fun with that. But they don't like you. They don't like how you talk. They don't like how you communicate. And that's fine, right? Because I used to coach basketball. And this is the perfect example talking about communication. How styles and personalities just clash all the time. All the time. You're coaching 12 kids. 12 different personalities.
Absolutely.
Not all of them learn the same. Not all of them are coachable, right? You're gonna always have this. Every team. I don't know if you ever coached sports. No, if you have any desire, but if you ever do one day, randomly, every team has that one kid who is just uncoachable beyond belief. They think they're, regardless of what sport you're in. If you're in basketball, the LeBron James. If you're in baseball, the Aaron Judge of the team. You can't tell me nothing wrong, right? How much of that do you see in leadership, and how cancerous is that, especially to a bigger organization, but more importantly to a smaller business? Because if you have 3 to 5 people and you can realistically 10x your revenue in a year, but because of your leadership, you're unable to do that. So like, how cancerous is it to have that mindset as a leader, whether big or small?
Oh, that's a great kind of way to think about it and look at it. So here's even something I'll throw out there to you that's interesting is there's a big communication change in the generations. So you're talking about customers specifically. All of us have heard the adage at some point that the customer is always right. And there's a level where, yes, I understand you want to make your customers happy, you want to keep them, but there are times customers are completely just wrong. And what actually has happened is that phrase became popular with the baby boomer generation. And that's more where that came from, where now when you get to millennials, maybe not so much, it depends, some are, but especially Gen Z, they do not buy into that adage and believe that. If you come and you're wrong, they're going to call you out on it, that you're wrong. And so there are communication differences even in the generations like that make it interesting. So to your question, kind of the idea of a leadership mindset being cancerous, if it's, let's just say it's the I'm right, my way is right, and that's the end of it. And that's kind of how things are communicated. It can be very much toxic to an organization. So John Maxwell, who, I've studied a lot read a lot of his books. That's part of my business too, is in partnership with them. But with John Maxwell, one of his most quoted phrases is everything rises and falls on leadership. And so if leadership is all about the leader and focused on the leader and they are always right and they never listen to other ideas, the biggest thing that you're going to actually run into is you are going to run people off, where your ideas may not be wrong. They may be successful. You may be a very profitable business. But what if you have other people that have ideas that do 10x your revenue? Well, if you don't listen to those ideas and you think you are the only answer to everything, then you're not going to see that 10x. You're going to see your success, but you're not going to see what it could become. And especially, here's even the thing tying in the generations. It's been shown in a lot of research so far that among millennials and Gen Z, but especially even more among Gen Z, they want leadership responsibility and their voice to be heard and feel like their voice matters. And so especially senior leaders, you typically see in older generations. So now if you've got these older generations that are saying, I'm right, my ideas are the best, I'm not listening to you. And you've got these two younger generations that's, I want my voice to be heard and responsibility, and I want to be able to lead and impact an organization. You've got two polar opposite viewpoints. Well, what's going to happen to those younger people? They're going to leave. They're going to go find somewhere else that will actually listen to them. Working on a master's degree and everything else. I've been focused on all this other stuff. Well, now, I'm finishing my master's degree and I'm finished with all of this other stuff and I've got this extra free time. It's the pandemic. I can't go anywhere. So why not start a YouTube channel? Or what if I started a podcast? Or what if I did? And I started kind of brainstorming that idea. And Maxwell Leadership, which is John Maxwell's organization, put out a free webinar at that time. And it was how to become a speakerpreneur, to speak and make money. And I'm like, it showed up in advertisements and in my email right as I'm brainstorming these ideas. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a very strange coincidence, or that's really nice. Facebook's listening to me or something. Yeah. But I checked it out, joined the free webinar because, hey, zero cost.
Yeah.
And they run through the different ideas. You could start a podcast. This is how you monetize a podcast. You could start a YouTube channel. This is how you grow and monetize. And they just walk through all of these things, but it was focused on this is how you can do it from being a leadership trainer. And I'm like, this is calling back to 17-year-old me that we were talking about earlier. And I'm like, okay, this kind of makes sense now. And the unique aspect they were offering is, we offer to certify and train you to take John Maxwell's content and content we produce that's leadership material to businesses. You don't need your own credibility. You don't need any kind of background in the industry necessarily. You've got John's decades of experience, our professional teams producing this content. We just need you to be the mouthpiece to go and be able to teach people. And if you sign up, go through our training, become one of our certified trainers, we'll give this to you. Dang. And so my idea was, well, I've got the money in the bank. I can pay for this. This isn't a problem right now. So what if I can do that and start doing virtual events and webinars or podcast and jumping on as podcast guest and doing all of these things that I've got the free time for. I've got the money to pay for the training and the license and going through all of this. So why not? This is the 17-year-old me's dream, and it's sitting right here in front of me on a silver platter, essentially. And, I don't have to create my own leadership content.
Yeah.
I don't have to go and say, oh, this is Nick Dyson's idea of what leadership is. No, this is John Maxwell's decades of experience from his books and his content, his material that I've read and studied and been trained to teach. Let me help you, and take that approach. And so that started that journey. So that was in 2020, kind of at the height, everything going absolutely crazy. And I finished the training, finished the certification. I went to Orlando to their conference with several thousand people, was there from all across the world in 2021. That's when things were finally opened up and they eased restrictions to where we could actually gather and meet, and was able to go and do that and meet John Maxwell. I met his CEO. I met his executive leadership team. I'm meeting CFOs of companies, Army officers, and having lunch and just talking to these people all day, every day for multiple days in a row, and just soaking it up. Because I'm like, this is awesome. And one of the greatest experiences from all of that was, even though I was young and hadn't even started a business at that point, they took me in as one of their own. I mean, I'm sitting there with Air Force officers and pilots that he's talking about flying bomber planes and everything else. And he's like, so what do you want to do with this leadership training? What's your goals? And just we're having conversations. I'm sitting there going, you're on a completely different level than me. Like, I'm nowhere near you. And we're just talking like friends.
But sometimes it's exposure, right?
Yeah.
And I had a conversation, funny enough, I had a conversation yesterday. And sometimes just knowing somebody is exposure, right? Like knowing the right person, knowing the right thing to mention at the right time. It's exposure, because like you never know who's around you. You never know who knows who. And heck, that maybe you guys have completely different paths, but like the experience you guys are going to gain and perspective you're going to gain from each other is invaluable.
Absolutely.
Right? Because he's got stories you can't experience, and you got stories that he has never experienced, right? Yeah. And it's like, I think this thing of like going back to communication and togetherness, it's just like everything is community. Everything is about people. At the end of the day, right? Like any business needs people.
Absolutely.
It needs customers. It needs people who work there. Right? It's pretty simple when you break it down. You need customers. You have to sell a product or service. You have to make money. Those are the three things: customers, something to sell, and actually making money from it. Right? Yep. But it's so cool that you got able to have these experiences with people who you probably never, without this course, would have probably ever been in the room with.
Right.
Right? These people who are CFOs and CEOs and Army pilots and officers and all this other stuff. It's like, how was that experience for you? And was originally the plan just to kind of be a speaker, or did you kind of know that you wanted to speak and help people with business development?
Yeah, so the experience itself was incredible, just because of the exposure to people, being in the room with all of these high-profile leaders. There was definitely the feeling of being an imposter, going, I don't belong in this setting. But them making you feel so welcome and bringing you in was absolutely amazing. And just having access to all of those people was great. And so for me, it was the John Maxwell team at the time. Now it's the Maxwell Leadership Team, the people that have been trained and certified to go out and do. They talk about, they speak, they coach, they train, and then they joke about it. We play the leadership game because that's one of the things we offer. But speaking, coaching, training, that's kind of the big three.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was, obviously I'm looking at it going, I want to do all three. Like I want to do it all. But you have to kind of niche down and find where specifically is best. And so for me, I love communication, and to be able to be like a keynote speaker and travel and speak at conferences, that to me sounds so much fun, and I would love to do it. The challenge for me is I don't always have the most exciting stories. Like I've got stories, yes. But I mean, when you look at a lot of motivational speakers, like my stories compared to their stories, I don't feel like mine are quite at the same level. So it's like, okay, maybe in the future, that'll be mine. But the trainer aspect, to go in and take John Maxwell's content, or maybe it's, at this point I've created some of my own content, to go in and do training. And then my stories, like the 17-year-old me and the public speaking competitions. And there's tons of stories that I've got now that I didn't even think were important, but they fit better in that training aspect. So I can go into a room of 10 people, 15 people, 50 people, however many's there, and talk about a concept, mix in these stories and examples and quotes and everything else. And it makes sense in that aspect. So for me, it was initially, I want to do it all, but I can't. So let me focus down, and training makes the most sense because, again, I love talking, communicating, working with people. There's a lot of John Maxwell's content that I love to bring in. Well, there's resources and material that's basically been given to me, and I'm licensed to go and facilitate. I can advertise myself as that, and to then go in and work with businesses and organizations. Dyson Leadership is my brand and me, but Maxwell Leadership is a much larger group and much larger brand. And for people that are familiar with that, there's extra credibility, extra name recognition, and just goes from there.
That's incredible. So so let's say I'm a business owner that wants to, someone out there's watching, they're a business owner, they want to work with you. What does that process look like? They find you, they reach out, take us through that intake and what goes into actually working with you, and kind of what is all being done.
Sure. So it depends on what exactly is needed, because a lot of things I do are customized. I will find what matches up with what you're asking for. So if I have somebody reach out, for example, I'll use real examples. Have a group reach out and they say, we want a communication workshop. We want our team to communicate well. Okay, what's your goals? What's your desired outcome? What are you looking to achieve? Asking some general questions. I want to get a feel for your team. How many people? What's the makeup? What's your end goal? And trying to find what would fit the need the best, and then structuring something that would fit for that. Now, flip side, you may have somebody who is, say, a small or medium-sized business, and I've got somebody in the organization, or maybe it's the owner of the organization, that I want to grow and develop as a leader. Well, great. Let's chat. What does that mean to you? What does that look like? What's your desired outcome? Yeah. And then how can I structure something to work with you one-on-one to train and kind of coach you up in what you're looking for? And, even another example I'll throw out is another organization decided they wanted to do leadership training. And my question was, what does that mean to you? You can say, I want leadership training, but what? Because that's a very broad topic. And for that organization that I'm thinking of, it was, well, we've never really had leadership training for our people. And so we need really an introduction. What is this? What does this look like? How do we build this up? And so it was, okay, let's do a half-day workshop. We'll cover some of the basics. This is what it means to be a leader. These are some of the characteristics. Let's structure this and give you that introduction, and then empower you to, if you want more training, if you want coaching, if you want to go read some books, listen to some podcasts, that's great, but let's get you that foundation and go from there. And so it really depends. And I partner with CVCC as well through their corporate development. Yeah. And so there's been instances where it's, we need this specific topic. Okay, I got it. I got material. I can come do that specific topic. I've been asked for, time management, communication, a leadership series or lesson series, things like that. Okay, what specifically are you looking for, and I can help. So a lot of the intake is just that questions, diving in. What is it you're truly looking for? Because a lot of people, they don't see leadership training as needed. They just see it as, it's just going to happen as I'm in leadership roles. But it's really that engagement of what are you thinking, and what really is going to add the most value to your organization, and how can I make that happen for you?
What's one of the biggest misconceptions of running business development, leadership business?
Probably the biggest one is kind of what I was alluding to, of the it's just going to happen mindset of, I've got the manager title, the leader title, I'm figuring it out, I'm learning, it's just going to happen, I just need experience. And there's so many other soft skills that go into it. I mean, truly leadership as soft skills, I can't go and name them all, but you got to be able to have goal setting. You've got to have good time management. You've got to have good people skills, interpersonal skills, conflict management, communication. There's a lot of aspects. So you may have somebody that they're great with people. They're good with conflict management. They're good with communication, but they're more unorganized. They don't have good goal setting, or they're not good at communicating goals and initiatives. Okay. There we found the gap. And so that's kind of the thing, is a lot of people just assume everything's going to work out and it's going to be fine, or it's not needed. Why would I pay money to bring you in when I've got somebody, they've been a manager for 20 years and they know 20 years of experience, but does that mean they've been a good manager for 20 years? That's kind of the challenge there.
It's also funny because like you could be in a leadership position, but like how much are you developing? Mm-hmm. How much are you investing time and effort into being a better leader every day? Right? Because you don't just get the title and just go, I'm the best leader in the world right now. Right? Yep. That's it. I got promoted. I'm the greatest. Nobody can tell me any different. That mindset is bad.
Absolutely.
But what you could do is you could get better. You could learn not just from the mistakes you made, but from the team around you, and become the best leader you could possibly become in that experience that you have. Right? I think it's a funny thing, because perspective's reality. I love this phrase. I've been really honing in on this phrase, but perspective is reality. And speaking of perspective, I would love for you to think now in your early 30s and you're doing this. Go back to that 17-year-old kid that went to that first conference, that took the workshops and all that stuff. What would you tell your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Looking back at it and looking back at what it was then, is probably don't listen to everybody else's opinion of you. Pursue what you know you are called to do. And the reason I would say it that way to me is I knew there was the desire and the passion to do some type of speaking, leadership training, that kind of thing. I didn't know how. But I was listening to everybody else's explanation of, this is how you need to do your career. This is where you need to go. And there's an element that's good. Feedback and advice is good. But it was a lot of advice and feedback that was contrary to what I believed I should have done. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of good advice, but it was mixed in with a lot of bad advice. And so being able to listen to people, but also, in a sense, not listen and know, okay, deep down, this is what I want to do. So what makes the most sense to get to that end? Yeah. Then I can go ask advice of people to help me get there. And so that would make the biggest difference. The other thing I would probably tell myself, because there's probably two, is to be more intentional. Because me, when I was young, I mean, there's obvious, you want to sit back, play video games, take it easy. You've got little responsibilities. I mean, hey, you're living at home, mom and dad, paying the bills. I mean, you've got it easy.
Some would say living the dream.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's things like that are much easier. And one of the things looking back at my youth is I realized all of the missed opportunities where I could have done more from a career or growth or learning. There's so many more things that I could have done that would have sped up or improved how fast I got to my career and successful in my career. But at the time, I just couldn't see it. Yeah. And so hindsight's 20/20.
Of course. Every time. Monday night quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I could go back and tell myself that advice, that would be the biggest thing, is don't neglect the personal growth, the development, and the things that you can learn on your own time in your youth, because it will speed up the things you're able to do as a young adult when you step into that career.
And then the last two questions I got for you. Someone wants to reach out and they want to do business with you. How do they go about that? How can they find you? Website, social media, shout out all your platforms.
Absolutely. So I'm on, I feel like every social media known to man. It's probably not, but it feels like that. At Dyson Leadership, website, dysonleadership.com, nice and straightforward. Easy to find me, easy to track me down. You could probably go and Google search Nick Dyson, Dyson Leadership, and I should come up. So that's the thing.
In that, for someone watching, who is your actual, what is your actual target audience, and who is somebody who could benefit the most while you're shout out your social media.
Absolutely. So the people that I love to work with most are organizations that want to see and grow and develop their employees, especially because it's one thing to have an organization that says, oh, we value our people. It's another that will say, okay, we value our people and we want to give them the skills and necessary soft skills and abilities to be successful long-term for our company. We want to develop them to where they're not just employees, they can be senior employees, they can be supervisors and grow. That is ideal. And that can be across industries. I've worked with manufacturing, I've worked with churches, I've worked with schools. I mean, you name it. It doesn't matter if they have that mindset.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And even if you don't have that mindset, let's have a conversation and see
Get
if we can get you there because it's important. And I come some to, I have some HR experience, HR background. And one of the things that I see in a lot of that as well is for employee turnover and retention, being able to train, develop them, give them opportunities for growth or the potential of stepping into leadership roles is one of the easiest ways to improve recruitment and retention of companies.
And then the absolute last thing, I did mention it. You kind of touched on the personal side with the what you would go back and tell your younger self. So strictly business, for someone watching this, maybe they're a leader. Maybe they're in a high level position of leadership and whatever that looks like for them, because it's so different in whatever corporation or organization you work for. What's the best piece of leadership advice you can give to someone watching this right now?
You don't have all the answers and always continue to learn everywhere you go. It's something for me, I've had instances where there are conversations with teenagers and they teach me something because they have a different mindset, a different outlook. I can have a conversation with somebody that's 80, 90 years old. Well, they've got decades of experience in something that I can learn and take in. And so I tend to refer to myself as a sponge because I want to soak up everything from everybody because you can learn from anybody. And the same, there's podcasts, there's books, there's so many different avenues to go and just soak up information. And for me, especially, I don't want to ever be seen as somebody who's just stagnant or thinks they have all the answers. Even in the training that I do, I always do a postmortem of my trainings. What went well? What didn't go well? What can I do better? Is there another book or another podcast or something that I can get more information to make this better moving forward? Because I always want to be growing and improving. And so that's always the best advice that I would ever want to give somebody is look for ways to learn and grow in every opportunity you have.
You heard it from the expert himself. First off, just thank you so much for being on the podcast, giving us an hour of your time. Absolutely. I greatly appreciate it. If you are a business, if you're an organization, big or small, you're looking for someone to come in and teach about leadership and teach about how to potentially grow your business and get your employees to be better people. Because that's what it's about. It's about better people, right? If you're looking for someone like that to come in and help you, Dyson Leadership, highly recommend. All his links are going to be in the description below. Social media, website, how you can get in touch with him. All that's going to be in the description below. So shout out one more time. Dyson Leadership, Nick Dyson, thank you so much for your time. Absolutely. Lastly, Lake Hickory Pub Marina for allowing us to film here. Where Lake and life meet. I love that little slogan. But until next time, hit that subscribe button. But most importantly, lift love, crush hate. Till next time, we out.